Deep in the Swedish countryside, concealed behind a thicket of overgrown birch trees and rusted chain-link fencing, stands the decaying remains of what was once one of Ericsson's most advanced manufacturing facilities. Built during the height of Sweden's post-war economic miracle in 1963, this sprawling 25,000 square meter complex represents both the pinnacle of mid-century industrial design and a cautionary tale about the impermanence of technological progress. For nearly 3 decades, this factory served as the production hub for Ericsson's groundbreaking crossbar telephone switching systems, employing over 1,200 workers at its peak and exporting equipment to more than 40 countries worldwide. Yet today, its cavernous assembly halls stand empty, its once gleaming production lines now coated in decades of dust, and its story largely forgotten by all but a handful of local historians and urban explorers. This in-depth investigation will peel back the layers of time to reveal the complete, unvarnished history of this abandoned industrial site, from its ambitious beginnings as a symbol of Sweden's technological prowess to its mysterious abandonment in the early 1990s and the ongoing debates about its future. Chapter 1. The Birth of an Industrial Titan, 1960 to 1965. The early 1960s marked a period of unprecedented expansion for LM Ericsson, as the company sought to capitalize on the global telecommunications boom following World War II. With demand for telephone infrastructure exploding across Europe and developing markets, Ericsson's board of directors approved construction of this state-of-the-art manufacturing facility in 1960, selecting its location based on 3 critical factors: proximity to skilled labor pools from nearby technical schools, access to reliable hydroelectric power from the Lagan River, and convenient transportation links to the port of Gothenburg. Construction began in April 1961 and employed nearly 800 workers at the height of building activity. With a reinforced concrete structure featuring several innovative design elements that were revolutionary for 1961 their time, including Sweden's first fully integrated climate control system for precision manufacturing environments, and a unique modular floor plan that allowed entire production lines to be reconfigured as needed. When the factory officially opened on May 15, 1963, it represented the crown jewel of Ericsson's global manufacturing network. The initial workforce of 950 employees, swelling to 1,400 by 1965, produced the company's flagship AKE 13 crossbar switching systems at a rate of nearly 200 units per month, with each telephone exchange requiring approximately 3,000 individual components that were sourced from over 80 different suppliers across Scandinavia. Production floors operated on 3 shifts around the clock, with workers enjoying amenities that were exceptionally generous by 1960s standards, including an on-site medical clinic, subsidized childcare facilities, and a company-sponsored recreational center featuring Sweden's first indoor badminton courts designed specifically for factory workers. Local newspapers from the era described the facility as a city within a city, complete with its own power substation, water treatment plant, and emergency fire brigade. Chapter 2. The Golden Years. The period between 1965 and 1975 represented the factory's operational zenith, as Ericsson's technological dominance in electromechanical switching systems coincided with unprecedented global demand for telephone infrastructure. Production capacity expanded dramatically during this decade, with the facility undergoing 3 major expansions in 1967, 1970, and 1973 that added nearly 12,000 additional square meters of manufacturing space. Employment peaked at 1,623 full-time workers in 1972, with the factory accounting for nearly 18% of Ericsson's total global output of telephone exchange equipment. Detailed production records from this era reveal some staggering statistics. The factory produced over 15,000 complete crossbar switches during this period, containing more than 45 million individual mechanical components that were assembled with tolerances measured in hundredths of millimeters. Quality control was exceptionally rigorous, with each switch undergoing 72 hours of continuous testing before shipment. The factory's reputation for precision became so renowned that Soviet technicians visited in 1971 as part of a technology exchange program, reportedly marveling at the efficiency of the production lines. However, this period also saw the first signs of the labor tensions that would later plague the facility. In the winter of 1974, a 23-day strike by metalworkers' union members disrupted production and resulted in violent clashes between picketers and security personnel. Archival footage from Swedish television news broadcasts shows workers throwing snowballs packed with rocks at factory windows, while management responded by locking out nearly 300 employees suspected of union activism. These tensions would simmer beneath the surface for years, occasionally erupting into brief work stoppages, but never again reaching the intensity of the 1974 confrontation. Chapter 3: The Digital Revolution and First Signs of Decline, 1975 to 1985. The mid-1970s marked the beginning of the end for the factory's golden age, as the telecommunications industry began its seismic shift from electromechanical to digital switching systems. Ericsson's AXE digital exchange, introduced in 1976, rendered the factory's core crossbar switch products increasingly obsolete. While management initially attempted to retool portions of the facility for digital component manufacturing, these efforts were hampered by both technological challenges and entrenched worker resistance to retraining. Production records show a steady decline during this period, with output dropping from 180 crossbar switches per month in 1975 to just 40 by 1982. The workforce was gradually reduced through attrition and voluntary departure packages, falling below 1,000 employees for the first time since 1966. Particularly damaging was the loss of skilled engineers and technicians, many of whom were poached by Ericsson's newer digital facilities in Stockholm and Malmö. The factory's struggles were compounded by several external factors during this period. The 1979 oil crisis dramatically increased transportation costs for raw materials. New environmental regulations required expensive upgrades to the facility's chemical treatment systems. Competing manufacturers like NEC and Siemens began undercutting Ericsson's prices in key export markets. By 1983, internal Ericsson memos obtained through archival research revealed that senior executives had already begun discussing plans to wind down the facility, though these discussions were kept secret from workers and local officials. Chapter 4: The Final Years and Closure, 1985 to 1992. The factory's final chapter began in earnest in 1985, when Ericsson announced the first major round of layoffs, cutting nearly 400 positions and consolidating all remaining production into a single wing of the facility. This move sparked outrage in the local community, with the municipal council threatening legal action and workers staging a series of rotating strikes. Newspaper reports from the time describe emotional scenes as third-generation employees carried family photos off the production floor for the last time. Between 1987 and 1990, the factory operated in a sort of industrial limbo, still technically open, but with only skeleton crews maintaining minimal production. The remaining 150 employees worked primarily on refurbishing older switches and fulfilling small spare parts orders, a far cry from the facility's heyday. Security was gradually reduced, leading to the first instances of vandalism and theft that would later become rampant. The final closure came suddenly in March 1992, when workers arriving for the morning shift found the gates chained and a terse notice announcing the immediate termination of all operations. The move violated Swedish labor laws requiring advance notice of mass layoffs, resulting in a protracted legal battle that eventually saw Ericsson pay nearly 12 million Swedish kroner in penalties and severance packages. Local legend maintains that several workers were literally caught mid-task when the closure was enacted, with half-assembled switches left untouched on production lines, where they remain to this day under layers of dust. Chapter 5: Decades of Decay and Urban Exploration, 1992 to present. In the years following its abandonment, the factory became both a symbol of industrial decline and an unlikely magnet for urban explorers. The sheer size and completeness of the abandoned facility make it unique among European industrial ruins. Unlike many factories that were stripped bare after closure, Ericsson's equipment was largely left in place due to the specialized nature of telephone exchange manufacturing. Explorers who have ventured inside describe an eerie time capsule of 1960s industrial technology. Fully intact control rooms with analog monitoring equipment, still displaying frozen readings from 1992. Employee lockers containing perfectly preserved work clothes and personal items. Cafeteria bulletin boards still announcing social events from the factory's final weeks. Underground tunnels connecting various buildings, some flooded with decades of accumulated water. The site has also gained notoriety for its alleged paranormal activity. Multiple explorers have reported hearing phantom machinery noises and disembodied voices, particularly in the old quality control laboratories where workers would spend hours testing switches in soundproofed chambers. The most persistent legend involves a ghostly figure known as the Foreman, said to patrol the main assembly hall on winter nights. Chapter 6: Preservation versus Redevelopment – The Ongoing Battle. In recent years, the factory's fate has become the subject of intense debate between preservationists and developers. The building was added to Sweden's National Heritage Board's at-risk list in 2015, recognizing its significance as a remarkably intact example of mid-century industrial architecture. However, the estimated 250 million Swedish kroner needed for full restoration has made local officials hesitant to commit public funds. Current redevelopment proposals include: first, conversion into a technology museum and archive. Estimated cost 180 million Swedish kroner. 2. Partial demolition to create mixed-use commercial space. Estimated cost 95 million Swedish kroner. 3. Complete repurposing as a data center. Estimated cost 300 million Swedish kroner. Meanwhile, the building continues to deteriorate. A 2022 structural assessment revealed that portions of the roof are in imminent danger of collapse, while groundwater infiltration has caused significant damage to underground facilities. Time is running out for this forgotten piece of Sweden's industrial heritage. Conclusion: lessons from an industrial ghost. The story of Ericsson's abandoned factory serves as a powerful metaphor for the cyclical nature of technological progress. What was once the height of innovation became obsolete in barely a generation, its workers' skills rendered irrelevant by the very digital revolution their products helped enable. As we stand on the brink of another industrial transformation with AI and automation, this decaying facility offers sobering lessons about the human cost of progress and the importance of preserving our technological heritage. Not just as museum pieces, but as reminders of how quickly today's cutting edge can become tomorrow's abandoned relic.